Greetings, I'm Professor Hobo and welcome to another HOBOTECH review. Today's product is an upgrade to a solar powered fridge that I reviewed over a year ago. This new upgraded model is called the LiONCooler Pro and it's by a company called ACOPower. It's one of the very few solar powered fridges on the market. Let's check it out. HOBOTECH. The original ACOPower LiONCooler that I reviewed back in 2020 was impressive. It was, and still is, the fastest to cool fridge in my arsenal of something like a dozen different 12-volt fridges. It's a product that I still use to this very day on long road trips for the very fact that I could turn it on and it's at refrigerator temperatures in like 15 minutes. That, and I don't have to worry about fiddling with wonky 12-volt plugs that come loose while I'm canyon carving my way back from Costco with $200 of meat inside. The new LiONCooler has been upgraded in many ways. First, the battery is actually 20 watt-hours larger than the old outgoing model. And it's completely different. It's more of a power bank than an actual battery. This power bank has been modified to work with this refrigerator because it has contacts on the back which touch the contacts inside and power the unit. So you don't have to plug anything in to the fridge besides just slip it in and it turns on automatically.
Giggity.
And being a power bank, it actually has USB ports, including a power delivery port, 5521 input and output, and of course a light. But unlike other power banks, this can be charged directly by solar, and I'm going to demonstrate that in a bit. The Pro comes in three sizes, a 30, 40, and 50 liter. This is the 50 liter, and let me tell you, it's pretty darn huge inside. I'll show you in a bit how I can put 3 gallons of water in here and still have room for 2 loaves of bread. And I'll put the stats for this largest model down in the description here below. Now, while I may call this a fridge, it's actually a fridge freezer. So you can set it to below 0 or refrigerator temperatures. It can do both. It is not dual zone, it's only a single zone. Of course, the colder you set the temperature, the more power it's going to use. They do claim that this battery is going to last for up to 12 hours when set at 32 degrees. So of course, we're going to test this in the lab. And just like the previous model, this has a retractable luggage style handle on the back and a pair of 6-inch wheels, making it easy to tug around on most terrain when packed to the hilt with your favorite Viking mead or with the carcass of that mighty wild boar you just took with your bare hands. And what's cool about this cooler is that it comes with all the accessories you could possibly need. You have your AC wall charger, which you can run it directly off of AC power even without the battery inside. 12-volt plug for your 12 or 24-volt vehicle. Same thing, you don't even have to have the battery inside. And it comes with a very long MC4 cable that allows you to plug directly into the refrigerator or the battery to run it off solar. It also comes with a pair of tie downs, a storage pouch, a bottle holder, and of course the 193 watt-hour power bank. Oh, and it also has a bottle opener built in. Nice. And unlike most portable fridges, it also sports a drain plug in the bottom so you don't have to flip the thing over to drain it. These ACOPower folks really think of everything. Now you can get this fridge bundled with ACOPower's own branded 90-watt solar panel, and ACOPower claims that this power bank can be charged at 105 watts in as little as 4 hours. Well, that math doesn't add up to me, so let's go ahead and take this into the lab and test it out. Bang, bang. So I've let the ACOPower fridge reach room temperature, had the door open, I have a thermometer inside. Let's see what it says. You can see there about 66 degrees. We're going to put that back in there to verify the temperature inside matches what the display is, because one of the things that many people complain about on these fridges is the temperature display is inaccurate. So finally got a tool that'll allow me to Bluetooth without opening the door and see what temperature it is. So we have here the battery that comes with the ACOPower. Now this is different from their old fridge. Their old fridge had like a square battery that clicked in. It looked like a battery. This looks like a power bank. In fact, that's pretty much what it is. It's a power bank that's got USB ports on it, and even has a light on the back. Show you we are running 100% battery. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in. I'm not gonna bother closing this door, it doesn't matter. I wanna keep the display available so we can see what percent battery we got. So unlike other refrigerators where I usually tell you how many watt hours it takes to get to 32 degrees or 0 degrees, this time we're gonna see how much of this battery it takes up to go from room temperature to 32, and then from 32 to 0. We're also going to time it using my tablet. Now, before you all furiously type in the comments,
"But Hobo, I pre-chill my fridge from plugging it into the wall. I wouldn't use the battery, waste the battery like that."
I know, this is an experiment. We're going to just show you. Let's assume you're out in the middle of nowhere. All you have is this fridge, which is room temperature, and one fully charged battery. I'm kind of curious to see how much it takes to get it down to freezing. So let's give it a shot. Refrigerator is already preset to 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and it is set on maximum mode, not eco, because we're trying to see how fast we can get this cold. And the refrigerator is empty. The only thing in there is the thermometer, the digital thermometer I have. So let's fire it up.
Hey! Fire it up! Fire it up! Fire it up! Fire it up!
And now I'll just monitor it and we'll come back when it's ready. Okay, we're back. It only took 18 minutes to go from room temperature to 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, my phone tells me it says it's actually 41 degrees at my little thermometer in there. But these refrigerators, they have a hard time measuring the temperature inside because all of them pretty much have the cooling on one side of the fridge and then a sensor on the other side or somewhere else in there. And my thermometer is on the very bottom. It says it's 25 degrees. And at the bottom it says 36. Let's see what it is on the opposite side of the cooler. It varies quite a bit. Let's go in the back here. 30. So there we go. It says 32 degrees. That is on the back side underneath all the electronics compressor and stuff. So like I said, the temperature is going to vary considerably depending on where you put that thermometer inside. One of the interesting things is it only used 6% of the battery to get it down to refrigerator temperature. See right there, it says 94%. So for the next test, we're going to turn the temperature down to 0, which is considered deep freezer temperature. We're going to see how long it takes, how much more the battery it's going to take. Remember, we're on max mode. So there we go. We'll resume the timer because we have to assume that if you're going to set it to freezing, you want to start from room temperature and get to freezing. Okay, I was standing here when the compressor kicked off. It stopped at exactly 48 minutes, 15 seconds total from room temperature. And we're down to, let's see, 81% on the battery. It says 13 degrees, just went up to 14 degrees. -5, -7. It's on the cold side. -8. And what's interesting, the bottom is 10 degrees. Now, I have no idea why the bottom is 10 degrees when all the sides are in the negative. So that probably explains why my temperature sensor that I have in here, my little thermometer, reads 10 degrees instead of 0. All right, now we're setting to 32 degrees. We're in eco mode. I also just plugged this into AC power so that the battery will charge. Because now I have jugs of water I'm going to put inside. So there's 1 gallon, 2 gallons, 3 gallons. This is rainwater from July from my rain catchment system. So that's 3 gallons of water. So it's going to take quite a while to get this down to 32 degrees. Okay, we're back. It's been about 8 hours, and those 3 gallons of water are now at the temperature of the refrigerator. I have it set to 32 degrees. In eco mode, it is now running on battery. So we're going to come back in 12 hours and see if it's still running. Because the claim is, ACOPower says that this battery can power this fridge for 12 hours. It's 193 watt hours. I'm thinking actually shouldn't take that much power. So we'll see. We'll come back in 12 hours and see how much battery it actually used, and we'll do a little math to extrapolate how much power it takes to run over 24 hours. And you might be curious what the temperature is inside. 40 degrees, just like last time. So this is the upper limit temperature you want to have your food at. So we'll leave this at 32 since the top of the fridge ends up being 40, which is still food safe. We'll leave this in here overnight. This will actually track temperature over time. So I can see if it's, going up and down, up and down. So that's it. It's on. It's going to sit here for the rest of the night. We'll come back in 12 hours and see the results. All right, we're back. It's now 12 hours later. Let's see how we did. The results look pretty surprising. As you can see here, it says 64%. So it only used 36% of the battery to run for 12 hours. Now, ACOPower says this battery is only supposed to last for 12 hours. That's why I did the test for 12 hours. I was kind of surprised when I came in and saw that it was still 64%. But there are reasons for this. I'm pretty sure they tested this refrigerator empty. So if this refrigerator was empty, it would use a lot more power. The fact of the matter is I have 3 gallons of water inside of this. I could have fit a 4th, and that's mass. Once you get that mass cooled to 32 degrees, it keeps the inside of the fridge cold, just like putting ice in there would. So it takes very little effort for the refrigerator to maintain that 32 degrees, especially in this room, which drops down to about 60 degrees at night. So that's the second factor. This would actually use more power if you were outside in like 90-degree weather. I don't know what temperature they did their testing in. So let's assume 76 degrees and you're not putting anything inside, then this battery probably would only last about 12 hours. But if you fill this up, and the more you fill it up, the better, and you pre-chill it before using the battery, then you're good to go. This will actually last you 24 hours on one battery, at least in this case. Your situation is going to vary, and that's going to change how long this battery can run. Also, if you put it in freezer mode, it's really going to burn this battery up in probably anywhere from 4 to 8 hours. They say in the manual 4 hours for the freezer mode, which isn't very long at all. So there are the results. Now we're going to charge this battery up and see how much actual watt hours was used in 12 hours. And then we'll double that number and figure out how much power would this use in this situation for 24 hours, because that's what you all want to know. Okay, here's the charging setup. I'm using my variable voltage charger going through this meter and then into the power pack there. I cranked this up as high as I could, 24.5 volts, which is coming through as 24.25 volts. Seems to be the maximum that this can take, so don't put more than one solar panel on this battery. It's not going to accept it. Now, as for the charge rate of the battery, it seems to be capped somewhere around 87 watts. You can see right there, it's going to show up here in a second. There it is, 87 watts, 88 watts. That seems to be the maximum I can push into it no matter what voltage I change it to. So that does seem to be the limit.
12 seconds later.
All right, here are the results. This is charged to 100%. And this is saying that we charged it 50 watt hours. So almost exactly 50 watt hours. Now, I've tested a lot of fridges, but none of them have ever come close to using only 100 watt hours in a 24-hour period. I have to think it's because I put all that water in here, let it all get cold, and then it was like 60 degrees in this room last night, so it's actually just sipping power. 100 watt hours for a day is almost impossible, but that's the result we got. So I don't really have time to do a 12 or 24 hour retest on this because I got to get this video out tomorrow. But what I can do is do a 6-hour test and extrapolate that to 24 hours. So let's go ahead and take everything out of here. But first, I want to show you just how much more room there still is in here. I got 3 gallons of water in there. And this whole top area, I could easily fit another jug. I could fit several things of eggs. I mean, this is probably 6 inches at least above the water. So this is a huge space that's still empty in here. I mean, I got 3 gallons of water in here. I could have easily fit 4. Let's go ahead and pull the water out here. We're going to go ahead and do the next test empty because I'm curious to see with this empty, and it's a little bit warmer in here today, 67 degrees. We'll just leave it empty and run it for 6 hours and come back and see how much of the battery did it use. So for this next section of the test, I'm going to keep the heat on in here, which should keep it between 65 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit.
6 hours later.
Okay, we're back. It's been 6 hours, and I was kind of surprised how much more power this took. It actually says 69%, so we used 30% in 6 hours. So let's go ahead and pull the battery out, and we're going to go charge this and see how many watt hours that is. Should be something in the 40-ish watt hour range, but let's charge it and find out. And here are the results. 41 watt hours to run 6 hours with an empty fridge at 32 degrees with an ambient temperature of 65. So there are the results, which are somewhat surprising. It cost 100 watt hours in 24 hours if you keep this thing completely full and run it at 32 degrees in a cooler environment. And it uses 160 watt hours in a 24-hour period if you run it empty in a room that has about room temperature. So you can expect your results to be somewhere between those two numbers. And of course, it's going to use more power if it's a warm day, and it's going to use more power if you set it below 32 degrees. It's also going to use more power if you don't pre-chill it. It's also going to use more power if you put food in there that is not 32 degrees. Welcome back. It is the next day. I did decide to do one more test on this battery overnight because I knew some of you are going to run this in freezer mode. So I set it to 0 degrees Fahrenheit overnight, and I let it run. It ran exactly 12 hours on this battery before it died. I mean, it was within about 5 minutes at 12 hours. So that's empty. There was nothing inside of it. Now, if you had this full of freezer food that was already pre-chilled to 0 degrees Fahrenheit or below, like say you're going to bring stuff from your house freezer or your deep freezer, put it in here, set this to 0 and let it run, it actually might run an entire 24 hours on this battery in freezer mode. Now, I don't have time to test it. The video has to come out tomorrow. So that's going to be the last test for this video for this fridge. But I was really surprised it ran 12 hours on empty at 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is actually a lot more efficient than any other refrigerator I've tested to date, which is pretty amazing. Most of these 12-volt fridges, when you set them in freezer mode, they'll use somewhere between 350 and 400 watt hours a day. Most 12-volt fridges, when set to 32 degrees and you're around ambient room temperature, usually run between 2 and 250 watt hours. I've seen some run as high as 300 watt hours in a day, but the average is about 250. So the numbers that we got off this were very impressive. It actually makes it one of the most efficient fridges I've ever tested. So let's take this outside, plug it into a solar panel, and see what happens. And as always, these are the sky conditions today. I never get to test the solar panel when it's actually sunny out. That's just how it works. So I'm using this 70 mAh 100 watt solar panel. I really like this solar panel. It's what I had on hand. ACOPower did send me a solar panel like a year and a half ago, and I lost it. It's in my garage somewhere. Well, on a cloudy day like this, I'm still getting about 42 watts from this 100 watt solar panel. So not too shabby. Now there are some additional features of this battery bank that I want to talk about. Now you have your DC input, which is a 5521 on the far right. You have 2 regular USB ports. You have your bi-directional 60 watt power delivery port. And then you have a DC output port. And on the other side, you have this light. And these are the contacts that contact the inside of the fridge and transfer power. Now what's interesting about this is that if you double click, it turns on the light. And then single clicks after that change the light mode. Of course, they have to have SOS on there because they have to. Then it says out 1 on here. You can see where it says out 1. That means that this output is now active. And what you can do, if you hold down the power button, you'll see there it says 16 volts. Press it again, it says 20 volts. Press it again, it says 24 volts. Now what this means is that this output is actually being set to that voltage. So what's coming out of this 5521 now is 16 volts. Now 20 volts is coming out. Now 24 volts is coming out. Why is this important? Because you could use this to power a laptop directly or a CPAP machine. A lot of CPAP machines are a different voltage, like some of them are 24 volts. So you can set this to 24 volts, plug your CPAP machine in directly, don't even need an inverter, and this will DC power your CPAP machine. There are many laptops, for example, which run on 19 volts. This is close enough. Even though this is 20 volts, it's not going to hurt your laptop. You don't have to take my word for it. I'm not going to tell you to do anything that might damage your computer, but I would have no problem plugging my 19 volt laptop into 20 volts. So that's just an additional cool feature about this battery bank that you just don't see in other battery banks. And that's just a little Easter egg for getting this refrigerator. Okay, let's take a quick look at the app. This is what the interface here looks like. That's the current temperature, current voltage of the battery, which is not in because I am charging it right now. This is where you could set eco or max mode remotely. This is where you could set the voltage of the battery. So if you have this plugged into your vehicle, you can set it at 9, 11, or 12 volts. I usually have it set at the lowest setting. You can change Fahrenheit to Celsius. This unbundled, what that actually does is it disconnects and deletes the Bluetooth. So don't hit that button unless you actually want to unpair your Bluetooth. And this is of course where you can set your temperature, so you can set it remotely to whatever you want. Then you can change the language here. Here's some interesting options under advanced. You can set the max and min temperature control range. The temperature difference, for those of you that complain that these refrigerators turn on or off too often or aren't accurate, you can actually change the temperature difference from when it kicks on or not. You can set a start delay several minutes if you don't want this to kick on right away. So you have 3 settings here for temperature compensation, which allows you to manipulate the accuracy of the thermometer inside. I'm not sure what this last one does. It doesn't explain it in the manual, so I would just leave it at 0. Oh, and you can also turn off the power up here. So the fridge is now off. Turn it back on, and then you can turn on and off Bluetooth. If you turn off Bluetooth, obviously this is going to disconnect. And that's all she wrote. I think most interested in this product will use it as a refrigerator where you can get away with only having 2 batteries and a single solar panel for 24 hours of runtime. Of course, you can take the AC adapter or 12 volt, plug it directly into the side of the fridge, run this indefinitely in any mode that you desire. In that case, it works just like any other 12 volt fridge with one major difference. That is, if it becomes unplugged or the power goes out, the battery automatically takes over and keeps your stuff cold. That makes this fridge ideal for preppers or anybody with unreliable power or rolling blackouts. This will allow you to keep your food frozen automatically when the power goes out. That means it's also great for leaving it in your vehicle, so when you turn off your car, the battery will take over, again, keep everything inside cold. Then when you start your car again, or maybe push button as it is nowadays, the battery inside will charge back up when your car is running. This is also great for fishing if you want to keep your catch cold without ice, and of course it's perfect for rolling out the picnics or campsites, since you don't have to drag a power station around with you. And since it has an optional app, it means you don't even have to look at that little screen on the top to control the temperature, turn it off and on, and change all the other settings. This is very convenient because that means your passenger can check on the fridge while you're driving. So if it sounds like the LiONCooler Pro is all rainbows and unicorns, it's not. While it's a fantastic and obviously very efficient refrigerator, there are a few shortcomings. The first being runtime. While 12 hours might be fine for a day out, a 3-day weekend camping trip is going to force you to have several batteries on hand in case of bad weather. I understand they want to offer the largest internal space possible by using the smallest battery possible, but I personally would give up a ham sandwich amount of space for a true 24-hour battery. This would also double the freezer time to a more respectable 8 hours because no one's going to wake up in the middle of the night to change the battery. Now, my results with the ACOPower Pro were beyond fantastic, consuming only 100 watt-hours in a 24-hour period, but these were literally under lab conditions with a 60-degree ambient temperature and 3 gallons of water pre-chilled at 32 degrees inside before I even started the test. We did clock a more realistic 160 watt-hours over a 24-hour period with an empty fridge when the ambient temperature was 70 degrees. And I was also able to burn up the entire battery from 100 to 0 in 12 hours by putting this on 0 degrees Fahrenheit freezer mode, leaving it in eco. Even though the freezer was empty, it does show that you can get 12 hours out of that battery in freezer mode. So it sounds like to me ACOPower was very conservative with their numbers. Or maybe they test this thing in like the Amazon jungle or somewhere where it's like 100 degrees all the time. Now the other thing is you're going to pay for all this innovation. The standard ACOPower fridges aren't necessarily cheap and run in the $700 to $800 range, which is about what a top-end ice coat will cost you. And even the ice coats don't even come close to all this technology. So if you're one of those people looking for a cheap disposable Chinese fridge, this is not it. However, I do have some very good news about the price. Currently, for only the next few days while it's still on Kickstarter, there are a limited number of LiONCooler Pros available for the super early bird price of only $508. This is an extremely good deal. For those not in the know because of all the global shortages and shipping issues going on right now, many of the 12-volt refrigerators coming from overseas, the prices have increased dramatically. To get a base model Dometic, which is made in Sweden, you're now looking at $500 just for the basic smallest model, which is like twice the price it was a couple years ago. Even the cheap Chinese brands are going up in price. The basic BOUGERV was $1.99 last year, now it's up to like $2.39. So to nab such a state-of-the-art, innovative, and efficient refrigerator such as this at $500 is practically a steal. That brings me to one other upgrade that is different from the LiONCooler Pro than the original LiONCooler, and that is noise levels. One of my gripes with the original model was that it was pretty darn loud while it was running in max mode.
Hold it, fellas. I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.
I currently have this in max mode right now, the compressor's running, and look at how much quieter this one is in comparison to the old one. That's like 51 decibels. That's significantly quieter than the outgoing model. I have a feeling that ACOPower upgraded the compressor in this to a very high grade compressor because not only is it quiet, it's super efficient. So at $500, this price just isn't gonna last. After the Kickstarter ends on December 10th, the price is going to increase. Then it's gonna go way, way up once it hits the ACOPower store page on their website. And what they sent me here is no prototype. This is a complete finished model, and I would personally trust this company to deliver as promised. If you're interested in checking out the LiONCooler Pro, the link is in the description of this video below. Thanks for watching. If you learned something today, don't forget to give me that thumbs up below, and if you're not a subscriber already, you know what to do. That's it for now. Till next time.
Odin commands you to like and subscribe, and clean my litter box.
And yes, this is a solar-powered flower because regular flowers don't grow this time of year.
RV Golf Guy, Medic Audio Repair, Andrew Von Roger Cardano, Brian Blue, Bruce John Jason Sirocco.